This horror manga is truly blood-boiling and heart-wrenching to read. There are hundreds of horror mangas being produced every year, but only a few can draw readers in. And with Blood on the Track rising in the ranks in 2017, I decided to check it out. And what I stumbled upon was merely a scratch on the surface for what I just discovered. I had opened up a new part in my life where I felt uneasy reading manga, which was unusual to me. The feeling of anxiousness and anticipation for every single page I read through. I became more uptight, waiting for the next moves of certain characters. Blood on the Tracks is a horror manga, not quite like anything I've ever read. The manga doesn't have monsters on it on each panel, and it doesn't have a generic night scary sky, but rather it's the normal characters that make it really terrifying. Saichi Asabe is a middle schooler in Japan who is an only child with a stay-at-home mom whose name is Saiko, and a typical father who goes to work to provide for his family. However, since this is a horror manga, this isn't your normal family. The mom is extremely overprotective. That's typical of a mom, but rather this mom turns it up a notch. Saichi's friends and family view him as a mama's boy constantly. Even though he doesn't consider his mother's behavior to be unusual, an incident happens that opens up his eyes to the possibility of how dangerous his mother can really be. Chapter 1 starts with Saichi being a child and Saiko taking him to walk. Sai encounters a cat who seems to be already dead. He goes to pet it and asks the mom, "Is the cat okay?" But the mom happily says the cat is dead. It was a dream, so we're told. His mother wakes him up from school, as life seems to be normal for the regular middle schooler. He gets breakfast and even sees his crush, Fukashi, who has a crush on him back. We later find out that the cat story was actually not a dream, but an event that happened while Sai was much younger. We start to see little glimpses of Saiko being overprotective as she gets touchy with Sai, wanting to grab his face. Chapter 2 is where the story really picks up as we get introduced to side characters such as Sai's cousin Shigeru and Shigeru's mom. Sai gets hit with the reality when his cousin tells him about how overprotective his mother truly is. Ever since he was a little child, which kinda bothered Sai as he saw nothing wrong with this. Sai's mom is super clingy in a sense, unbothered by anything to make Sai happy. Sai felt Shigeru pushed the line a little bit, saying in a chilling tone, "Don't you dare say weird stuff about my mother like that." Sai then goes downstairs to eat with his aunt, cousin, and mom. And this is when the series changes forever, when we see the aunt invite the Asabe family to go hiking with them. The coming chapter leads up to the trip. Sai feels like he's losing some of his friends because Shigeru takes up so much time on the weekends when he comes over. We then later get interrupted by Fukashi, the girl I mentioned earlier who was in Sai's class. Her friend states that Fukashi wants to walk home with Sai and they proceed to do so. Fukashi wants to come over to the house, but Sai needs permission from his mom. Rolling over to chapter 4, hiking day is where Shigeru and his parents meet up with Sai and both of his parents to collectively go on the hike together. Both Sai and Shigeru were told prior to the trip to watch out for cliffs and nearby rough edges. Just as Sai was about to slip because Shigeru slightly pushed him, Saiko grabs onto Sai in a heartbeat to prevent Sai from dying. Everyone burst out in a laugh at Saiko, saying she is overprotective, which left a distinct impression on both son and mother. Chapter 5 is where the story starts to spiral as Sai and Shigeru head out to pee in a forest, when all of a sudden Shigeru starts to fool around near a cliff. Shigeru begins to mock Saiko and says she's always overprotective. Shortly after, Saiko actually comes back to check on the two as they've been taking a while to go pee. That's when Shigeru begins to slip. With Sai being frozen in time, Saiko makes the grand save and helps Shigeru. Shigeru begins to mock Saiko and says she's always overprotective. That's when Shigeru yells at Saiko and says, "Shut up, I'm fine." Chapter 6 is a sudden change when Saiko pushes Shigeru off a cliff in front of Sai. With Sai so shocked, he couldn't believe what his protective mother had just done. Sayuko screams to Sai to get the others. She plays the incident off as she tries to save Shigeru, but didn't make it in time. Although Sai saw the incident, which would later become a major part within the story. By 6 chapters, this manga had gotten extremely popular all over Japan, and quite frankly, all over the world. In just 6 chapters, the story had gotten much more deeper than any manga I've ever read. The fast-paced turnaround rarely happens in any manga. Just the feeling you got by seeing the mother that seems to be so caring to children in a loving way just throw an innocent child off a cliff over a rude comment got under my skin. I thought the manga was going to end up being just a normal monster terrorizing a stupid family, but watching a caring person lose their temper and throw a kid off a cliff is really disturbing. The chapter rolls by where Sai is unsure of what he really saw his mother do. Was it just an illusion, or did he really see a murder being committed right in front of him? Shigeru was left paralyzed after this, not having the ability to walk or talk properly anymore for a while, which is much more important than we think. More on that later though. Sai hated the feeling of being the cause of someone getting hurt, watching it happen and pretending that he didn't see his mother pushing his cousin. He didn't want to visit Shigeru in the hospital because of this. His mom also discouraged him from visiting Shigeru as he was just a brat. Surely enough, the girl I mentioned earlier, Fukushi, is in awe of Sai and decides to give him a love letter that is supposed to be read alone, with him laying eyes on it of the words that she wrote. Sai reaches home after meeting up with Fukushi but stumbles into an uncomfortable conversation with his mom and dad. Saiko decides to go on a rant saying she wants to disappear and would have left her husband a long time ago. She hates the idea of being in a family, so we start to see the true side of Saiko. Saiko especially does not like Fukushi. The idea of Sai loving another woman that isn't her drives her crazy and decides to make Sai stop seeing her. But it doesn't last long as Sai makes her her girlfriend on chapter 27. The mom had driven crazy to the point in chapter 32. She catches both of them hanging out after school and runs after Sai to drag him home. Sai actually then escapes with his new girlfriend and hides at her house. A little backstory about Fukushi: she was raised by a single dad as her mother wasn't in her life. Back to the dad, their relationship with each other is very abusive as they throw things at each other. While Sai was over at the house, he decided to hide from the mom until she goes knocking on Fukushi's door, which she then tells Fukushi's father she's looking for Sai. But the father doesn't even know who Sai is, and he doesn't even know that Sai's in the house, so he says he doesn't know where he is. Sai at the end of the day flees back to his house and pledges to his mother he will always be faithful to her. And here we have it, the son and mother duo is back again. At first, Sai caught on to his mother's action and tried to escape her creepy life she lived by, and ended up going back as he was afraid of losing his mom for good. At this point, we have lots of questions. Why is the mom so overprotective? Why does she put Shigeru? And why is Sai going back to her? This whole situation made me understand where Sai is coming from, as he didn't want to lose his own mother, but at the same time he should have sought out some sort of help, knowing that he was endangered because of the physical abuse just ended up getting worse and worse, with his mother choking him. Things took a turn when Sai and Saiko actually went to visit Shigeru as he got discharged from the hospital. As Sai and Shigeru were alone in the living room, Shigeru actually jumped out of the couch. Note, at this time, the doctor says Shigeru wouldn't be able to walk, so this act by Shigeru had caused Sai to grab onto Shigeru as he was about to fall. And something strange happened. The same butterfly that flew in front of Saiko moments before pushing Shigeru appeared right in front of Sai. Then Sai let Shigeru just fall down. Both Sai and Saiko leave the aunt's house in shock of Sai's actions. He begins to turn like his mom. Chapter 69 comes by and Saiko admits that she had pushed Shigeru off a cliff in front of Shigeru's parents. They ended up taking her to prison that same night, and Sai did a whole 180 within this moment. He realized he was being extremely manipulated by his mother to obey her every rule, to the point he couldn't take it anymore. He had told the police his mother was the reason for the hiking accident. He recreated the crime scene, which unlocked a core memory from Sai, his own mother pushing him off when he was a little kid. Saiko wasn't too happy with Sai. She thought she would be happy with having a child and make her feel more alive, but that wasn't the case. She felt more distant when giving love to Sai, to the point that she threw Sai off into the forest in hopes he died from the fall. He was just a child back then. Sai survived, but what we know now is that the trauma stemmed from that very incident. Sai then unlocked a new side, a new form that hated his mother. She made him feel weak and arrogant. Some time had passed and his mother had been in jail until her court date. Sai actually went home actually pretty happy with himself and relieved that his mother was gone. Then the biggest plot twist had come by, as it began to snow in the late night to early morning, which in surprise Sai had woken up. He felt the need to go outside, which was the biggest mistake he could ever make, as there was a hollow boy standing right outside Sai's door. It was Shigeru. Shigeru told Sai, "Let's go to the mountain." Sai followed Shigeru up the mountain and pleaded for him to come back down. Shigeru screamed to give him who he was before the fall. Sai and Shigeru started to imagine the mother. Till this day, many people don't understand the symbolism of the mother showing up and confronting Sai. We get a glimpse into what really happened on that day when Shigeru got pushed off the cliff. Sai transforms into his mother's body while Shigeru turns into Sai. The mother's heart is full of hatred and pain. From this perspective, we see that Saiko wanted to kill Sai, not Shigeru. But more on that later. Sai is in desperation, questioning if he should have been born. He believed him being born caused his mother all of this. A child version of Sai then appears to grant him his wish. If he wished he was never born, he should kill his younger self. Sai then pushes off the child, but comes back to his senses, and in reality, he actually pushed Shigeru off the cliff again. He then wakes up in his bed thinking it was a dream, but it wasn't. Once he noticed the police showed up to his door and seen his wet hat and boots, it was reported by Shigeru's parents that he went missing, so the police obviously went to the first suspect's house who pushed Shigeru off in the first place, the Asabe household, and strange things start to happen. He starts to become like his mother. That weird grin he starts to do, the face he makes, it's all beginning to look and feel like his mother. He finally admits to the police he did push Shigeru off the cliff. Sai then goes into the mountain with the police to show them where he pushed Shigeru off, and got the police to dig up his body that was piled up in the snow. Sai goes to juvie for this, as he isn't fully adult yet. The butterflies start to show up again, the same ones that appeared when Sayuko had pushed Shigeru off the cliff. Now moving on to chapter 100, we get another plot twist. Sayuko states that she actually didn't push Shigeru off a cliff. At first this doesn't make sense. She admitted she did this, but now she's saying she didn't. Well, the mom is actually smarter than we think. See, Shigeru had started gaining his abilities back to speak, listen, touch, smell, and with all of this coming back, Shigeru could have testified against Saiko and told the police that in fact Saiko did push him off. But now that Shigeru is dead, there will be no hard evidence and no real proof with any eyewitnesses to say that she did push him off. She then told the police she felt pressure by Shigeru's parents to say she did the crime because they were getting physical with her. Now we see the mom's manipulating powers come into play. When Sai was asked by the police did she really do it, Sai begins to go in a bit of a swirl, rethinking what happened on that day. She had planted a seed into Sai's brain to the point that the mother was controlling his every move, manipulating him to lie, to harm others, to do things he didn't want to do. In chapter 101, he explains this perfectly. If mom didn't do it, so all I've done until now, what was it for? As you can see, Sai is reality checking himself. He can't tell the difference between the truth and the mom giving him a false reality. After this interaction with the investigators, Sayuko was let free and showed up to Sai's court date for the killing of Shigeru. Saiko doesn't take Sai seriously anymore and fully cuts ties with being his mother. Sai didn't bring her happiness, so she let him go. The whole point of having a kid was to bring her happiness and give him a life she never had. But since Sai was a letdown, he served no purpose for Saiko, so she left. Sai took out his rage by launching himself onto Saiko to abuse her. The police pulled him off as she left the courtroom, and it was official. Sai was found guilty for the murder of Shigeru and placed in juvie until he reached 18, where he got sent to prison. We get a time skip where time has passed and Sai is out of jail for the murder. He has a well-paid job and lives by himself. He's quieter and mostly keeps to himself, although his dad is still in his life, as he gives money to Shigeru's family in compensation for Shigeru's death that was a toll taken by his own son. He works until he gets placed on his dying bed where he loses his life. Sai then reunites with his mother, as she's been living on the streets from time to time but had gotten severely injured. The story takes a turn as Sai started to live with his mother, as her house rent couldn't have been paid anymore with the dad's leftover money after he passed away. Sayuko talks about her dreadful life to Sai, as she finally opens up about how terrible her life had been before Sai was born. She was lonely and distant from everyone she met. Sayuko actually had passed away a few chapters after explaining her whole life story. Sai then comedically starts laughing at this point, as his life seems to be complete. He becomes old and reminisces about his mother's face that he can't seem to imagine anymore. And just like that, after 153 chapters, Blood on the Tracks is complete. Thank you guys for watching the video and subscribe.